She was new to the big city.
She came here to Atlanta to pursue her dreams in the beauty industry.
And he promised to show her the way.
They instantly hit it off.
She really felt a sense of protection that he would take care of her.
My friend was happy.
But her ambitious dreams would never become a reality.
What they see is they see a female body with no clothes on.
Oh my God.
Someone choked her, strangled her.
This was a brutal attack. It was personal.
Investigators unearthed a slew of suspects.
She tried to make a fresh start, but he would not let her go.
You and I were meant to be together.
He had a full-on meltdown. He had been stalking her.
He's abusive, he's aggressive.
She was in too deep.
But when the smoking gun is revealed, all eyes are on one man.
The DNA was the icing on the cake.
He snapped. His rage kicked in.
He was screaming in the background, why you on the phone with this bitch?
That was just evil on top of evil.
February 2nd, 2011. It's Wednesday morning in the South Atlanta neighborhood of Polar Rock.
It's about 10 minutes away from downtown Atlanta.
It's a very walkable, bikeable area. There's a nature preserve nearby. It's not far from a golf course. They have a community farmers market, so it's increasingly becoming a desirable area of town.
A lot of folks have moved in, developers have built these 3-story homes, these larger homes, and they're surrounded by some of the older homes. So you can see that area is changing, it's growing.
Today, a local jogger is running his typical route through the neighborhood when something out of the ordinary catches his eye.
He noticed something strange.
He saw something about 60 feet back from the road in a wooden area.
A closer look reveals that the object is an oversized trash bag wrapped in duct tape.
Is this trash? Is this something that somebody just littered?
But when the jogger peeks inside the bag, the reality is far more gruesome.
The first thing he saw was a human foot.
Oh my God.
This was a pretty traumatizing discovery.
He calls 911.
I think I just found a dead body.
Atlanta patrol officers quickly respond to the location.
The jogger pointed them towards the bag. They looked inside.
What they found was a body of a female, completely nude.
This was a nice, quiet neighborhood, so finding a body, that was shocking.
Who is this female? Who brought her here? How long has she been here?
Luckily, the answer to one of those questions is found lying just a few yards from the victim's body.
Hey, detectives, I think we found something.
There was a wallet with a driver's license inside.
The driver license belonged to 20-year-old Tandy Hunt.
Tandy Hunt, called Tandy by loved ones, was never known to be a wallflower.
Tandy was from a very small town in North Carolina.
We became friends in middle school. Her mother was African and my father was African, and so we clicked instantly.
She was super popular. Everybody loved her.
She was bubbly, she was fun, she was down to earth. She just loved people. Like, she always made you laugh. Her laugh was contagious.
In addition to her charming sense of humor, Tandy also had an eye for beauty.
She loved makeup. That was her thing. She showed me about makeup. Like, that was like her passion.
She did all of her friends' makeups. She stayed on trend with the different techniques and the styles.
She had a gift for it. She knew how to do the cat eyes. She knew how to do all the smoky eyes. I felt like Tandy expressed herself through makeup and through hair. Like, she cared 100%.
She was really hoping to see where her beauty skills would take her.
After graduating high school in 2009, Tandy set her sights on Atlanta.
There wasn't a lot of opportunities in North Carolina.
A 20-year-old that, ambitious. I can just see her just wanting more for her life.
Tandy wanted to come to Atlanta to pursue her dreams in the beauty industry.
Atlanta is booming. It seems everyone wants to move to Atlanta. It's desirable for so many reasons, especially if you're a young entrepreneur, business person looking to get out in the world and make your mark. There's so many opportunities.
And in the process of relocating to the big city, Tandy's own beauty turned a lot of heads.
There were a lot more eligible bachelors to be found in Atlanta than where she grew up in North Carolina. So she found herself going on a lot more dates.
That could be date number 2.
Okay.
But one date seemed like it could turn into something more.
She started seeing Ray Messina, and he became completely infatuated with her.
Ray was an Atlanta native who promised to show Tandy everything the city had to offer.
Now I can take you to all the hottest spots.
I would love that.
Ray seemed like her ticket to finally feeling at home in Atlanta.
Not only was he making her feel at home, but he was also making her feel like a princess.
I can't get over how gorgeous you are.
Oh, thank you.
However, Ray's attentiveness eventually became too much.
Things were moving a little bit too fast, and Tandy began thinking, I need a little space.
We're just getting to know each other still.
I'm sorry.
She was a naturally independent woman, didn't really want to feel tied down.
After just a few weeks of dating, Tandy decided to end the relationship.
Ray was heartbroken. He was already starting to fall in love with her.
But Tandy's dating life was just starting to heat up.
Hey, you here alone?
Yeah. I'm kind of new to the city and still meeting people.
Well, welcome to Atlanta.
She was grabbing a bite to eat one night when she met Larry Harper.
They instantly hit it off. He was cool and sweet.
I'm Larry.
I'm Tandy.
Although 34-year-old Larry was several years older than Tandy, she was drawn to his maturity.
Him being older, she really felt a sense of protection that he would take care of her, especially with her coming to a new city.
You doing anything after this?
No?
I'd love to take you to another one of my favorite spots.
Okay.
They clicked. And being in the big city now, things moved absolutely fast.
She found herself spending more and more time with Larry.
She raved about him being her best in the bedroom.
But Tandy didn't feel suffocated by Larry like she did with Ray.
He was older, more mature, and he understood when she needed her space.
They were taking their time, getting to know each other, just basically seeing how the relationship was gonna go.
She saw a future with him.
With a supportive new love by her side, Tandy was poised to take on the world.
She was definitely ready to do the relationship thing. She definitely was looking into hair school. She was definitely excited about starting that career.
But instead of exploring a future with Larry, Tandaway Hunt has been found dead in a vacant lot in South Atlanta.
Not only was she wrapped up in trash bags, but she was also wrapped up in duct tape.
What happened? What went wrong? All these questions that need answers.
One thing is clear. Tandy has been murdered.
It was obvious. There was trauma to Tandy's body.
They discovered that she has bruise marks all over her neck.
Tandy was strangled to death.
At the beginning of 2011, 20-year-old Tandaway Hunt had just moved to the big city to make her dream of becoming a makeup artist into a reality.
She was thriving and doing very well here in Atlanta.
She was pursuing her passions, discovering a new city, and everything she hoped for, she had that and more.
After ending a brief relationship with Ray Messina, Tandy found someone who seemed more her speed.
Tandy met a gentleman by the name of Larry Harper.
Larry was smart, he was funny, he was a protector, and she believed that he was in it for the long run.
She really loved him. She always expressed that to me.
Tandy had to be on top of the world. I'm sure she was thinking, all is going well for me.
But now Tandy's naked body has been discovered abandoned in the South Atlanta suburb of Polar Rock.
Police determined that she likely had been strangled.
She had marks around her neck.
Detectives suspect the crime itself took place elsewhere.
When police surveyed the environment, they realized that Tandy was not killed here.
There was no blood, no sign of struggle, so the assumption is that the actual murder may have in fact happened somewhere else.
That was just a dumping spot for the body. So they're wondering, where is the crime scene? Who dumped her there? All of these questions.
The fact that Tandy's body was stripped naked raises more questions.
When detectives see a nude body, there's two roads that they usually travel, that the body is A, nude because someone had sexually assaulted her, or B, someone may have taken her clothes to hide evidence.
At this point now, they don't know if it's a sexual attack plus murder.
Investigators won't know for sure until Tandy's injuries have been assessed by the medical examiner.
During that time, her remains was transferred to the coroner's office, where they were able to do more information to find out what happened.
While they await the results of Tandy's autopsy, detectives have the grim task of reaching out to her loved ones.
After further investigations, police found out that Tandy is actually from North Carolina, and they were able to get in contact with her family.
Hello?
Tandy's mother is shell-shocked.
Her relationship with her mom had become strained. Once she became of age, her mom was kind of like, you know, you're grown and you have to make your own way.
She hadn't spoken to her daughter in a while.
But she tells the police that Tandy had been talking to her father for the first time in years.
Her dad wasn't always in the picture, and so by the time that he came into her life, she was already an adult. And so I always would encourage her to make that relationship work, because you only get, you know, one dad.
After hanging up with Tandy's mother, they reach out to her father.
Hello?
When the detectives called, Tandy's dad was stunned at what the detectives said.
He said she was a good kid. He thought that she was about to thrive, about to grow in her new life here in Atlanta.
There weren't any signs that something might be wrong?
Well, I think she might have been having money trouble.
Tandy's father says he'd recently received a series of alerts from his bank that had him worried.
He had helped her open a bank account. He was, in a sense, trying to help her transition into being an adult. And he saw that her account was in a negative.
Did you ask her what was going on?
No. Just wanted to give her space, you know? I thought she would reach out. If she needed help.
Thank you, sir.
Their conversations with Tandy's parents don't make detectives feel much closer to finding her killer. But then, they receive an unexpected visit from a young woman named Jessie Crawford.
Let's have a seat. Jessie had become one of Tandy's closest friends in Atlanta. And when she heard about what happened to her, she knew she had to come forward.
I think I might know what happened to Tandy.
Jessie told the detectives about Tandy's ex-boyfriend, Ray Messina.
He was always such a creep, especially with Tandy.
He had been harassing her, stalking her, you know, just doing crazy stuff.
Jessie felt Ray was very unstable.
I think he might have taken it too far this time.
In their search for answers regarding the strangulation murder of 20-year-old Tandaway Hunt, Atlanta detectives are speaking with her friend, Jessie Crawford.
I think I might know what happened to Tandy.
She had an idea of who it might be, and she gave the police the name of Ray Messina.
Tandy was very popular, engaged with a lot of people, very outgoing. However, Ray was a loner, very quiet, didn't say much.
They didn't make any sense together. Honestly, I think Tandy only went out with him because she felt sorry for him.
Jessie says that when Tandy ended things with Ray, he lost it.
She tried to let him down easy.
Why are you leaving me?
Ray, you're scaring me.
But Ray did not take it well at all. He had a full-on meltdown. He screamed and yelled at her.
You and I were meant to be together. This isn't, no.
Did Ray make any threats against her?
Not exactly, but he did start harassing her.
Ray began to just constantly obsess over Tandy, where he would just constantly text her, try to get in contact with her.
It started to freak Tandy out. It freaked us all out.
One minute, he would be professing his love for her, and then the next minute, he would be harassing her, threatening her, belittling her, insulting her.
Even though she blocked him, he would try so many other ways to get in contact with her. He would find her on social media, use other numbers, to the point that he was really stalking her.
So you're saying he could have hurt her?
I'm saying, I think it might be a possibility.
The investigators believe Jessie and possibly think that Ray has something to do with Tandy's murder.
But before they can dig deeper into their new suspect, detectives receive the results of Tandy's autopsy.
Based upon the rigor mortis of the body, the medical examiners immediately knew that the murder had to take place on February the 1st, 24 hours before they found the body.
Doctors revealed that her larynx and her thyroid gland had clearly been damaged from the strangulation.
While the investigators' theory that Tandy was strangled to death has been proven correct, there's no sign that she was sexually assaulted.
The police thought that Tandy may have been a victim of a sex crime, as she was found nude. But when the rape kit came back negative, that's when they ruled it out.
However, Tandy's body does hold other vital evidence.
So the medical examiner realized that there was hair and saliva that was left on the body.
They determined those samples didn't belong to Tandy.
I'm looking at it right now.
So they were most likely left by the suspect.
Waiting on the DNA.
But as it turns out, when they were run through the national DNA database, they didn't return with any hits.
Even without a DNA match, the autopsy findings help police narrow down the pool of possible suspects.
A preliminary DNA profile found that there was hair on Tandy's body, and that hair belonged to a black male. Based upon the brutality on Tandy's throat, They knew that this murder had to be personal.
Everything police have learned about Ray Messina suggests that the profile fits him like a glove. Could the DNA belong to Tandy's ex, Ray Messina? After tracking down his address, police bring him in for questioning.
At this time, the police believe that Ray Messina is the primary suspect in Tandy's murder.
Ray was very reluctant to talk to the investigators.
Listen, I really don't have time for this, all right? So what's this about?
Once the police inform him that this is regarding the murder of Tandy, then he becomes a little bit more compliant.
Investigators asked Ray, were you involved in Tandy's murder? And Ray instantly said no.
We've heard you've been harassing her.
Stalking her, even.
I did do that stuff. I'm just wrong for that.
He said, look, you're right, but I'm trying to do better.
My family came in from out of town that weekend.
Ray freely admits that he and Tandy hadn't been on good terms, but says that doesn't mean he killed her.
He was pretty much stating that it wasn't nothing to the point where he wanted to cause her harm.
In fact, Ray says he now regrets the way he treated Tandy.
He realized that he was not being a very good person, so he, was trying to turn his life around.
He also tells the police that he is in therapy now to deal with some anger issues and some mental health issues.
Right, I have.
Ray insists that despite his infatuation with Tandy, he would never do anything to hurt her. And he says he has an alibi to prove it.
He did disclose that he had family from out of town that were staying with him during that time.
He said he was at home with his family on February the 1st.
And they'll tell us the same thing.
Call them up right now.
So detectives checked his alibi, and his family was able to confirm that he was with them.
However, before the detectives conclude their interview, Ray has a question for them.
You spoken to Larry Harper?
Atlanta police investigating the murder of Tandy Hunt have cleared her former boyfriend, Ray Messina, after discovering that he was at home with family on the day of the murder.
He was known to stalk and harass her after their breakup and initially seemed like the strongest suspect to the investigators. However, his alibi stood up.
Now Ray is suggesting that there's another man detectives need to speak with.
You spoken to Larry Harper?
Who's Larry Harper?
That's the guy Tandy was dating right after me.
According to Ray, he had witnessed something troubling between them a few days before her body was discovered.
Ray explains that Tandy began living with Larry at a motel shortly after they started dating.
I know I shouldn't have been around, but I had followed her to the motel. I said, who are you talking to on the phone?
He saw them arguing, and Larry started to get physical with Tandy.
Give me that phone.
Stop it, Larry!
Give me the phone.
And what happened next?
I don't know. I didn't stay around long enough to see.
Ray didn't want to get involved, so he eventually left.
If what Ray says is true, that moves Larry to the top of the suspect list.
Detectives wanted to speak to Larry immediately.
However, before police let Ray go, they take a DNA sample from him.
Even though his alibi seemed to hold up, investigators still wanted to run his DNA for comparison to what was found in Tandy's body.
You can never be too thorough when ruling out a suspect.
While the sample is sent out to the crime lab, police get to work tracking down Larry Harper.
They actually found him at church, and they brought him into the station from there.
When the police tell Larry that Tandy was found murdered, he seemed shocked.
No. Not Tandy.
We've heard you two are having relationship issues.
Wait. You think I did this?
He explains to the police that they were not all that serious. Their relationship was more of a friends with benefits situation than anything really committed in long term.
Larry stated that he had not talked to Tandy in a while. And that contradicted everything that Ray had stated before.
He tells the police that they had broken up about a month or so before.
What happened?
Honestly, she was too young for me.
He says Tandy was starting to get too close. Larry wasn't looking for that kind of commitment at that time, so he put her on ice.
In fact, Larry says that Tandy had already moved on.
He tells police that Tandy had been involved with numerous other men, that they could possibly be the ones who took her life, and he even threw out a name for them.
He tells the police that Tandy had started dating a man by the name of Reed Lund.
Larry disclosed that he didn't know a lot about Reed. However, did know that he was a bouncer in some nightclubs in downtown Atlanta.
But before detectives conclude their interview with Larry, they confront him with Ray's account.
Ray stated that he witnessed Larry being physical with Tandy.
Ray Messina, don't trust anything that dude says. He's crazy. Have you looked into him?
Yeah. He has an alibi.
Larry said that Ray was jealous of him. He assumed that he was just trying to throw him under the bus out of spite.
Larry admits that he and Tandy had been living together at the motel prior to their breakup, but he claims he was there alone on February 1st.
Larry did agree to give a DNA sample so that the police could have it analyzed.
Police are forced to let Larry go while they work to confirm his alibi. In the meantime, they try tracking down the club bouncer he mentioned, Reed Lund.
They visit some of the most popular nightclubs in the city of Atlanta, asking, does Reed work here? Has anybody seen him? Do you know who he is? Nobody seems to know anything about a man named Reed Lund.
He wasn't even coming up in the system.
After visiting dozens of clubs, the police aren't any closer to finding Tandy's alleged new boyfriend.
Detectives felt like they were at a dead end. They were unable to locate Reed.
Did he really even exist?
But investigators would finally get the clarity they'd been searching for when they get a call from Tandy's best friend back in North Carolina, Janelle Awishika.
Once I found out about her death, I instantly reached out. I was definitely hurt because this is my best friend in 7th grade.
She explains to the police that her and Tandy are super close.
We heard Tandy was dating a guy named Reed Lund. Know anything about him?
Reed? I've never heard of him.
Tandy had never mentioned a man named Reed.
Tandy usually confided in Jonelle regarding all her relationships.
Janelle explains that there was a man in Tandy's life, but his name isn't Reed Lund.
Janelle says that the only man in Tandy's life was Larry Harper.
We talked to Larry. He said they broke up.
I wish that was true.
Janelle painted a much different picture. She explained that Tandy and Larry had been together every day.
And according to Janelle, the couple's relationship was a powder keg that was ready to blow.
Janelle stated that Tandy really wanted to leave and she was ready to move on. But every time she attempted, Larry would constantly threaten her.
You know, he's abusive, he's aggressive, and now she's stuck.
I was scared for her. I expressed to her, you know, come home. Don't wait for it to get worse.
But she says Tandy was too terrified to leave her abusive lover.
I remember her telling me she was scared, like, he's gonna be upset because I left him.
Tandy was really scared for her life.
He told her if she left, that would be the end of her.
Thanks to her best friend, Janelle Awishika, Atlanta detectives have just learned that Tandaway Hunt was dating Larry Harper when she was brutally murdered, even though Larry claimed they had broken up a month earlier.
She was too young for me.
Janelle disclosed that she knows that they were still together in a serious relationship.
A relationship that was spiraling out of control.
I was really worried. Every time I talked to her, it seemed like things were getting worse and worse.
He was abusive. I always expressed to her, you know, like, get out while you can, you know, because we're not sure what potentially could happen, especially when, like, money got low.
Jonelle reveals that money troubles were often at the heart of Tandy and Larry's arguments.
They were struggling. She expressed to me that, you know, I can't afford certain things and he's not working. They were struggling. They were staying in hotels and she would be like, oh, well, we only got enough money for 1 more week or 2 more weeks.
But Janelle says Larry eventually found another way to make some quick cash.
He had begun selling drugs, and from conversations that we had, she expressed to me that he did some of the drugs. And so that made me worry as well, because it was like, we don't know what he's capable of.
What are you doing? This feels like dangerous territory. Larry.
Hey, are you gonna come over here and help me try this out or what?
You know this isn't my thing.
One day she called me and she said that she was out with him and some friends. And I guess Larry had an altercation with one of the guys that they were out with. And so on the ride home, they got in a heated conversation and the guy pulled out a knife. And so Tandy was scared. And when the car came to a stop, she jumped out. I remember us being on the phone and she saying, like, I'm scared, I don't know where I'm at in Atlanta, and I need to get back.
I'm sure that was very disheartening on her part to hear the abuse, but to know that her best friend was in this type of situation.
We didn't grow up like that. We may not have come from a rich family, but we didn't grow up around drugs. We actually made a pact when we were young that we would never do hard drugs. That wasn't who we were, truly. And so when she was telling me about that situation with Larry trying to get her to do hard drugs, you know, I definitely was like, friend, what more do you need to see?
Janelle tells detectives that unfortunately, the situation only got worse from there.
She had just spoken to Tandy on January 30th, 2 days before she was murdered.
Hey, girl. She was expressing to me that they had exhausted all options. And so she had no one else she could call and ask for money, and he didn't have anybody. And so we were on the phone just talking as usual and trying to come up with a plan.
Janelle, I really don't know what to do.
Separated by more than 200 miles, the two best friends calmly discussed options.
I was in Charlotte and she was in Atlanta, so it wasn't like I could just drive and get her.
Maybe I need to come back to North Carolina.
But their conversation was soon interrupted.
Who are you on the phone with? I said, who are you talking to on the phone? Man, give me the phone. Stop it, Larry. Why are you playing with me? I told you something.
I definitely heard them fighting. He was screaming in the background, why you on the phone with this bitch? Give me the phone. I was hearing hits and pushing and like punching.
What started as a verbal altercation quickly turned physical.
It sounded like they were tussling or fighting or scuffling.
She doesn't know what's going on, so she stays on the phone. Tandy's no longer talking because it's obvious she's involved in this tussle.
Janelle tells detectives that when Larry finally left, her friend tried to downplay what had just happened.
Hey, girl. No, everything is fine.
When Tandy gets back on the phone, just like she always does, attempts to make things better than what they really are.
I was worried, but the way she tried to downplay was like, they do this a lot. Yeah, girl, I had to roughen him up, but I knew it was a little more than that.
They kept talking on the phone for a few minutes, and then Larry came in, yelling and carrying on.
All of a sudden, Tandy just says, "Hey, I gotta go. Talk to you later." And click, the phone hangs up.
It was the last time Janelle ever spoke to her friend.
She got off the phone with me, and I never heard from her. Everything Tandy had went blank. Her phone was off. I messaged her every day on Facebook, no respond, no activity, no post, no nothing.
What do you think happened?
I think Larry killed her.
After their interview with Janelle, Larry Harper moves to the top of the investigators' suspect list.
Now, detectives are suspicious of Larry because now they know that he's lied based off what Janelle has stated. However, they would need more information to really see if Larry was a part of this murder. So they did a criminal background check and learned more about Larry's background.
Larry Harper did 2 years in state prison for a burglary conviction in 2004 and had a string of charges, from burglary to car theft to drug offense to assault.
But after speaking with Janelle, it's the next piece of evidence that proves to be the smoking gun against Larry.
The detectives received a response from the lab that the DNA analysis was complete.
Larry's DNA did match the fibers and the saliva that was found on Tandy's deceased body.
Now, there is no running away from this.
Police immediately bring Larry back to the station for another interview with detectives.
What's this all about?
He sticks to his story. Larry is adamant. He knows absolutely nothing about her murder.
Are you sure that's the story you want to go with?
It's not a story, it's the truth.
But as the police roll out the evidence against him, Larry starts to sweat.
They said, look, we have witnesses that can confirm that you and Tandy never broke up.
Larry changes his tune. And he all of a sudden says that he loved Tandy very much. He was deeply committed to her.
But when detectives reveal the DNA match, Larry realizes he's been backed into a corner.
In that moment, I think that he knew that it was probably over. He tried to deny it, but now reality is here. Now evidence is here.
Look, you're right. I haven't been telling you the truth.
What is the truth, Larry?
Larry then just starts to disclose that he knew exactly what happened to her.
He says that Tandaway Hunt committed suicide.
The search for Tandaway Hunt's killer has led police back to her most recent boyfriend, Larry Harper. And after intense questioning, Larry has abruptly changed his story.
Larry says she committed suicide.
She had been stressing over our money and our living situation. And it was too much.
Larry claims that on February 1st, the situation came to a head.
He says he came back to the motel where the two of them were staying, and upon entering the room, he saw Tandy's deceased body.
No. Tandy!
Larry insists that DNA evidence connecting him to Tandy proves his grief, not his guilt.
He said he became distraught and he just started crying and weeping over the body, which would explain why his fibers and DNA were on the body.
No, Tandy, come on.
I was freaking out. I didn't know what else to do.
Then how did the body get across town?
Larry stated that he found a note that she left for him with step-by-step instructions on how to get rid of her body.
He's trying to say that she left a suicide letter for him to destroy everything so nobody would try to pin murder on him.
She was looking out for me.
It's a bizarre claim that Larry has trouble backing up.
When the police ask Larry, where is this letter, he says that he burned it after he disposed of her body.
I was freaking out, man.
What young woman in their right mind would start thinking, oh yeah, I'm gonna kill myself. Before I do that, I wanna make sure you're taken care of.
Detectives don't hide their skepticism.
It's over, Larry.
Come on, man, I'm telling you the truth.
Sensing how screwed he really was, at that point, he asked one of the investigators could he use their phone to make a call.
Detectives grant Larry's request and leave the room.
During that time in their interrogation room, Larry makes a phone call.
Little does Larry know that he is being recorded on their closed-circuit television.
And it isn't long before Larry makes a shocking statement.
He says, they got me. I didn't tell him everything, but I told him I found the body.
So for detectives, this is good enough as a confession.
Moments later, they confront Larry with what they've just overheard.
See that clock right there?
Yeah.
There's a camera in there.
Larry goes ballistic.
No, man, I can't believe this, man. No.
He gets belligerent. He tries to rip the clock off the wall. He is up in a rage.
Shut up. All right, settle down.
No, I'm being friend.
Settle down.
Get your hands off of me.
All right.
Larry Harper is charged with first-degree murder.
They gave me the phone call that Larry was in custody, and I was, oh my God. I was so happy. I couldn't wait to go to trial.
In a surprising turn of events, Larry elects to represent himself in court.
This just showed his arrogance.
It was clear that in his mind, he was going to get away. You know, that he was smarter than his system.
In prosecutors' opening statements, they lay out their theory of what happened.
Based on everything that she told Janelle, Tandy was done with Larry.
She knew that without a shadow of a doubt that this relationship she was in was toxic, and yes, she needed to leave.
But when Tandy finally mustered up the strength to leave once and for all, Larry refused to let her go.
Where are you going?
I'm going back to Charlotte.
And you just gonna leave me here?
At that point, he snapped. His rage kicked in.
He was on top of her. He choked her, strangled her.
The amount of force that you have to put on somebody's throat to damage their esophagus and their thyroid gland is very much a lot. So he knew what he was doing.
Once Tandy was dead, Larry's survival instincts kicked in.
After he strangled her to death, he then covered her body with garbage bags and duct tape, and then trashed her body.
He know a place that he can dump where it's not gonna be as noticeable or nobody's gonna see him.
Throughout the trial, Larry stands by his bizarre claim that Tandy committed suicide.
It's horrible enough that he took her life. And then to create this fantasy narrative of her wanting to kill herself, that was just evil on top of evil.
The jury agrees.
The jury finds Larry Harper guilty of murder. He is sentenced to life in prison with no possibility of parole.
This wasn't a case of her wanting to end her own life. This was a case of Larry saying, you want to leave me, you're going to leave this earth.
For Tandy's loved ones, the victory is tinged with grief.
It didn't change the fact that my friend wouldn't come back, but I was relieved that he wasn't out here getting to live his life.
Now they hope the tragedy of Tandy's death can serve as a warning for other women in the grips of domestic abuse.
If you know somebody's in an abusive relationship, you say, I love and I support you. Be a safe space and not a space where they're even fearful of you because of what you may say. No judgment. We are some of the most judgmental people, and what that does, that pushes people away. I don't care how many times they are abused and how many times they go back. You be that safe space for them. You love them through it. Every time when you're ready, I'm here.
The message here is, at the first sign of abuse, get away. There's no love there. There's no love there.
Know that your worth is way more valuable than abuse. If you can commit to removing yourself, I promise you there's a life outside of that you've never experienced before.
Love yourself first. Put yourself first. Know your worth, truly. Because when you do, you wouldn't accept anything less.